You will not be able to lose yourself on swag and skip out of beer during beer commercials because the revolution will not be televised. This is one of the most famous lines, and it's by the Last Poets, and it's basically a spoken word group in the 1960s in Harlem. And they are the forerunners of all spoken word, modern spoken word, and basically hip hop and rap. And they've been quoted to be very influential. Today I will inform you guys about what spoken word is, its place in popular media. I will show you guys videos that portray spoken word, and its place in educational settings and how professors, activists, and poets are using it to educate the youth, basically. So in order for me to tell you guys more about spoken word, I'm going to be using personal testimonies from poets themselves and give you guys a case study where spoken poetry is used to see the results of how spoken word works in classroom. Spoken word is really important. I feel it's really important, and I'm going to share with you this because it has become so popular in the media. It's everywhere. Some of you guys may not even notice it's there. And I also think by this presentation, many of you guys might be inspired to use spoken word to express yourself, and it can be a form of expressing yourself artistically. So let's start by what spoken word is. I'm sure many of you guys are aware of what poetry is, and many of you guys may not even know what spoken word is. Spoken word is basically a rhythm, literary, word-based poetry. Basically, it encompasses music, it encompasses drum. A DJ may be next to you too as you speak, and kind of works together as more rhythm-based. They use space, they use a physical space. So when a spoken artist goes up, they take into consideration the audience. They use certain words to make you feel a certain way, to make you picture something. So it's very much about adjectives and how it makes you feel. There's two categories in traditional poetry. Literary poetry, which is written poetry, which takes into consideration the paper itself. So you might use quotation marks, you might use extra periods here and there, you might skip, you might use tabs. So that basically is it uses the paper. Spoken poetry falls under performance art, theater art. So basically it takes into consideration, like I said, the space. Spoken poetry became really famous in the Black Arts movement in Harlem in the 1960s, and I mentioned the Last Poets. They're one of the forerunners, and it started as a political poetry, like Bob Dylan, kind of a way to protest the low socioeconomic statuses in Harlem. And it started like that. It started with drumming, with the shikis, with basically like the black movement telling people how they feel and what it is they're protesting. So aside from what poetry is, poetry has also gained a lot of popularity in the media. For example, I don't know if you guys heard of the Deaf Poetry Jam on HBO and Brave New Voices. Those are two shows that always sell out, and they're on Broadway. Different demographics go. It's very, very popular. It's by Russell Simmons. And Jonathan Brown's a poet in there says, Russell Simmons has brought the art form to the masses, and HBO translated into success. So now spoken word is capitalized and it's high in demand, bringing you guys closer and giving you guys an image of what spoken poetry is. And I'm going to show you guys a brief video of spoken poetry. And I'm going to, if I can get this. Okay, so this is Sprite, and this is basically.
You've seen it all. 360s, tomahawks, superhero capes, fat full stickers, measuring tapes, blowing out candles, jumping blind. We've seen every dumping, every kind. But now that the legends have done their thing, a new batch of heavyweights are entering the ring, and we want to know what 2010 will bring. You see, there's been history made on our hardwood floor, so show us something that we ain't never seen before.
So every year, Sprite picks poets from all over the country, and they sponsor them to do their poetry and speak on behalf of Sprite. And this was really popular in the 1990s through the national poetry movement in the United States. So that's that in regards to commercial hip hop. Now, in classroom settings, spoken word has also become very, very popular. And I'm going to share with you guys a case study in Hartford, Virginia, in inner city high school. Middle school, where they use spoken poetry every month. They're very unique in that they use spoken poetry every month, and they get together students to write and perform their poetry to the whole school. So they took these 25 students who basically participate in the spoken poetry, and they tested them on English and the reading comprehension. And what they found was that students that participated more in the spoken poetry had higher IQ and test results in regards to English and reading comprehension. And when they were interviewed, the students that placed in the highest said that thanks to spoken poetry, they felt much more engaged in the classrooms. They wanted to listen to the teacher, listen to more poetry, Walt Whitman, and things like that, because they also wanted to use that in their own poetry, as well as they felt more confident reading out loud. So that made them kind of want to pay more attention and more confident, because a key to succeeding in middle school, especially when you're that young, is having that confidence to go out there, read out loud, and things like that. So their grades were much better thanks to this, because they were able to express themselves. Something very unique about spoken poetry as well in the classrooms is that it uses modern slang, it uses Spanglish, it uses Chicano, it uses everything, and it's just not standard English. It breaks the boundaries of regular grammar English. You don't have to say a certain thing. You don't have to put all those rules together. It doesn't apply to spoken word because it's modern, it's slang. It's supposed to break those barriers, and it's supposed to be more of a cultural identity to that person. I'm going to show you another really short clip about the National Poet Movement, and I go to this every year, and they're all over the country. Show you really quick. So that's just what takes place all over the country, and it's a national poetry slam. And I just want to end by saying that a quote by a famous poet in the movements that said, "In an age where test scores are the sole determinant of academic achievement, spoken word participants get to exist in their poetry and in their message." Thank you.
Okay, well, I like the quote, and the idea of the subject is, pretty solid. You've got a good preview of what the content's going to be. Obviously, it's well researched. All the material and has been organized very effectively, and there's a lot of content to what you're talking about. So we're never at a loss for information that's going to help us understand this subject. I think you're doing a very good job on that. On the visual factors, pretty much everything was spot on. You had the notes in your hands, although it didn't seem like you needed to have them, and it might have been better if you'd been able to get that one set of notes out of your hand, because you hardly ever referred to them. On the voice things, again, everything was, I think, very solid. Sometimes I think your volume needed to be up a little bit. Sometimes there needed to be a little bit more emphasis in inflection in your words, but that's only occasional. I didn't see anything that was really problematic and consistent. It probably throws me out of the spoken word category. I did hear occasional sentences where the grammar is not quite as sound as it could be, but you were always understandable, so I didn't have a problem there. It's just something that you might want to be careful about. Although, like I said, that probably marks me in my own little culture here. I want the I's to be dotted and the T's to be crossed, and I want the verbs and the context to match. I told everybody that joke, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the past, the present, and the future walk into a bar. It was tense. Yeah, okay.
Oh.
All right. There we go.